Hello friends, it's Wednesday. I'm so excited to see you guys. Well, not really see you guys. I'm so excited to talk to you guys again today for math. Look at what Lola just brought for me. It's her pizza. Let's see if we can get her over here. Nope, she's sleeping somewhere. Look how cute this is though. Mr. Cantrell got this for her when he was overseas, and she just keeps it with her all the time now. Look at that. All right, I'm gonna put it over here, and if she comes to get it, I'll show it to you. All right, guys, so today we are going to continue estimating decimals, except this time we're gonna be looking at multiplying decimals and dividing decimals and just doing a little estimation afterwards. I hope that you guys are enjoying estimating. It's kind of like rounding, and it's a good way for you to be able to check to see if your answers are right on tests, okay? So we're going to be on textbook, your 5B textbook, page 72. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and show you what the page looks like, just to be sure we're all in the right area. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and work through some of these, and then we're gonna look at some division afterwards before we do some independent practice. So we're gonna go ahead and estimate the value of 11 and 97 hundredths. Ooh, this red looks good. By 2. Now, when I am multiplying and dividing, I don't need to put a decimal point and line them all up. That's just going to be with addition and subtraction with decimals. Okay, guys? So don't worry about that. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to round them, and I'm going to be rounding to the nearest whole number. So what I'll need to do is I'll have to look at the tenths and so forth. Okay, we'll get there though. All right, so let's go ahead and solve this. So I have 7 times 2, which is 14. Carry my 1. 9 times 2, 18 and 19. Excellent. And before I forget, I'm going to bring down my decimal. 2 times 1, 2, and 1 more is 3. And 2 times 1 is 2. So I ended up with 23 and 94 hundredths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to estimate. So I can see that this decimal would be very close to, let's take a look at my tenths. That's a 9, so that's 5 or more. So I'm going to add a 1 to my tens here, really. So I am going to have 11 plus 1, and so that's going to become 12. My 2 here is already a whole number, so I'm just going to keep that the same. So I end up with 12 and 2, and I'm going to multiply those. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 1 is 2. You can see that 24 is very close to 23 and 94 hundredths. If I were to round this to the nearest whole, I would look at my 9, and I would say, okay, that's 5 or more, so I'm going to raise the score. And you see that they're the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the next example that they have on the board, in the book. It's right next to the boy with the speech bubble. It says multiply 2 and 74 hundredths by 4, okay? Then estimate to check if the answer is reasonable. And then he says, how close is your estimated answer to the actual answer? Okay, we don't know yet. We're gonna have to find out, right? 4 times 4, 16. Good. Guys, make sure you're doing this on your whiteboard with me, please. If you don't have your things, go get those. All right. And then we have 7 times 4. Okay, 28 plus 1 more, 29. Bring down my decimal before I forget. 4 times 2 is 8, 9, and 10. So I end up with 10 and 96 hundredths. So I'm going to go ahead and estimate to see if my answer is reasonable. So this decimal, I'm going to look here. Is that 5 or more? Yeah, raise the score. So I'm going to add 1 here. So I'm going to make that a 3. And that's already 4, so I'm going to keep it the same. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay. 10 and 96 hundredths is close to 12. So the answer is reasonable. If you look at this, you might be thinking, well, Miss Cantrell, wouldn't that round to an 11? Yeah, it would. Okay, they're not asking you to technically round. They're asking you to estimate. And I would say a good rule of thumb is if you're within 3 or 4 of your number, then your estimation is reasonable, okay? So here you might say, oh, okay, well, Ms. Control, wouldn't that be 11? Yeah, okay, but that's about one whole number away from this one, and that's only 2 whole numbers away from 10. So it is reasonable. Let's go ahead and try some together. Let's do number 7. We have 66 hundredths and 7. Whoop. I like doing these little estimation marks. Okay, so 6 times 7 is 42. And I have that again here, plus my 4. Carry down my decimal. 7 times 0 is 0, plus 4. So we have 4 and 62 hundredths. I'm going to go ahead and estimate to see if it's reasonable. Okay, so I'm going to look here. 6 is greater than 5. So I'm going to raise the score. So that would put a 1 in my whole number. And 7's already there for me as a whole. There's no decimal I need to round or anything. So 1 times 7 is 7. Okay, now again, this is another one of those guys. If I were actually going to round this, this would be a 5. Okay, it's not asking you to round, it's asking you to estimate. Is this within about 3 or 4 numbers of 5? Yeah, it's only about 2, and it's only about 3 numbers away from 4. So that answer would be reasonable. Okay, let's go ahead and do number 8 together. Oop, she got her pizza. Do you guys hear it? Oh, all right, now we're going to multiply 8. All right, 8 times 2 is 16. And then 8 times 0 is 0 plus my 1. Bring down my decimal. And 6 times 8 is 48. And I'm going to estimate, not to be confused with round. I already know that's going to be the same. So I'm going to look at my tenths. Oh, okay, that's a 0, so I'm going to let it rest. And 6 times 8 is 48. Yeah, that's definitely reasonable, wouldn't you say, guys? Those are very close to each other. Okay, what I'd like for you to do is I would like for you to write this down on your board. We're doing number 9 in your textbook if you need to look alone. 98 hundredths, let me fix my 0, times 3. All right. I want you to find the exact product, which is the answer to a multiplication problem, and I would also like for you to make an estimate for if your product is reasonable, okay? Go ahead and pause the video. Excellent job. Let's go ahead and solve this together to make sure we're all on the right track. So 8 times 3, we have 24. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 2, 29. Maggie's sniffing my face while I'm teaching you guys right now. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 2. Perfect. Okay, now let's go ahead and estimate to see if we're close. So I know my 3 is going to be the same, so I'll just do that there. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and look up here in my tenths. My 9 is definitely 5 or more, so I'm going to raise the score, so that's just going to be a 1. And 3 times 1 would be 3. So I can see that, yes, this is a reasonable answer. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at number 10. So I have 3 and 15 hundredths times 9. Okay, and then I'm going to estimate to see if my answer is reasonable. Go ahead and pause the video. Excellent job, guys. Let's go ahead and solve this and find our product, and then we'll see if the answer is reasonable based on the estimate. 9 times 5 is? Excellent. 9 times 1? Perfect. Add on your 4. Bring down your decimal. 9 times 3, 27, and your 1, 28. Ooh, let's make that 8 a little bit better. Well, that's the smallest 8 I've ever seen. I'm distracted because Maggie's trying to stick her nose in my mouth. All right, so I'm going to come over here, and my 9's going to be the same. And I'm going to take a look at my tenths, and that's just a 1. That's 5 or less, so I'm going to let this number rest. So then I'm going to come over here. 9 times 3 is 27. So is this a reasonable answer? Is it within about 3 or 4? Yeah, good job. Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and look at some with dividing today, okay, where we find the quotient and then we figure out if it is reasonable or not. So we have, I'm now on page 73 of your student textbook. Let's go ahead and look at this together, okay? If you can, read along with me. Estimate the value of 23 and 64/100ths divided by 3. Just as in whole number division, to estimate the quotient, choose a number close to the dividend that can be evenly divided by the divisor. So, change 23 and 64/100ths to the nearest whole number that can be evenly divided by 3. So 23 and 64/100ths would be close to 21 or 24. 23 and 64/100ths is nearer to 24 than 21. So I'm going to divide 24 divided by 3, which equals 8. So 23 and 64/100ths divided by 3 is about 8. And then look down here at the girl. Divide 40 and 4/10ths by 5, and then estimate to check if the answer is reasonable. So I have 40 and 4/10ths divided by 5, and my quotient, or the answer to my division problem, is going to be 8 and 8/100ths. 40 and 4/10ths is about 40. So I'm going to do 40 divided by 5, which gives me 8. These are two different strategies to do the same thing. If this seemed confusing to you guys, don't worry about it. You can do this strategy. This strategy is the one that I've mainly been focusing on the past few days in finding the product and the sum and the differences of decimals and estimating them. If it's easier for you to do it this way, do it that way. It doesn't matter to me as long as we're getting the same answers. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 11 through 13 together at the bottom. All right, so let's get our whiteboards ready. So we have 12 and 3/10ths divided by 3. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set this up. Okay, and we're going to find the actual quotient, and then we're going to estimate. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, 3 times what gets me close to 1, 0. Okay, I could do that. 0. Bring down my 2. 3 times 1 is 12. 4. And guys, you could have originally just said, okay, I know 3 times 4 is 12, and you wouldn't have had to do the 0. Okay, I'm going to put my decimal, just so I don't forget, and I'm going to bring down my 3. 3 times what gets me to 3? Good, 1. So my quotient is actually 4 and 1/10. Let's go ahead and estimate. So my 12 and 3/10ths would become, I'm going to look here in my tenths place. That's 5 or less, so I'm going to let it rest, so 12. And then I'm going to, sorry guys, I'm going to keep my 3, just like I did with multiplication. I'm going to divide by 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 4 and 1/10 is a reasonable answer. It's a good estimate. Oh, sorry, excuse me. 4 is a good estimate. 4 and 1/10. This is a reasonable answer. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number 12. So we have 17 and 73/100ths divided by 9. I'm going to go ahead and set up my problem here. Go ahead and do this on your boards with me. Sometimes, guys, before I even start when I'm doing division, I just pop my decimal up at the top before I forget. So instead of going through the 1 and going through the 0 like I did last time, I'm just going to look at the 17 because I already know that 9 can't go into 1. So I'm going to look at 17, and I'll just leave that spot blank. But because I'm looking at this digit, I'm going to make sure to put my answer here. 9 times what gets me close to 17? Can I do 9 times 2? And that's 18. That would be a little bit too much. I'm going to put a 1 here, okay? And I already put my decimal so I don't forget. Don't forget, you do not bring your decimal down when you're dividing. All right, so now I'm gonna do 17 minus 9. I can't do 7 minus 9. Okay, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm gonna bring down my 7. Ooh, I know 9 times 9 is 81. So I'm gonna do minus 81 here. 0, 6, 3, and then I know that 9 times 7 is 63. Okay, and I'm all the way down to 0 here, so I'm good to go. Now I'm going to come up and estimate. So I'm going to look at my 17 and 73 hundredths. I'm going to look at the 7 that's in my tenths place. That is 5 or more, so I'm going to raise the score. So my 17 becomes an 18 divided by 9. What is 18 divided by 9, guys? 2. Is my quotient 1 and 97 hundredths close to 2? Yes. In fact, if it were to be rounded, it would be 2. Okay? All right, guys, what I want you to do is I would like for you to do number 13 on your own. I'll help you set it up. Okay? All right, go ahead and pause the video while you try it out. Excellent job, guys. So I already know that 7's not going to go into 2, so I'm just going to bump over here. I'm going to put my decimal at first. 7 times what gets me close to 20? Well, 3, 7 times 3, that would give me 21. Oh, that's 1 over. I can't do that. So 7 times 2, let's do that. 14. Okay. Remember, I'm not bringing the decimal down. 20 minus 14, I can't do 0 minus 4, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to borrow. Okay. Now my 10 minus my 4 is 6, and that's a 0. Bring down my 9. Okay. So now I know that 7 times 9 is 63. 9 minus 6, 0. Bring this down. Okay, and again. 7 times 9 is 63. Boop, boop. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and estimate to see if this quotient is reasonable. So I'm going to take a look at my 20 and 93. I'm going to write it over here so it's a little bit easier. 20 and 93 hundredths. And I'm going to look at my 9. That's 5 or more, so I'm going to raise the score. So 21 divided by my 7. And I know that that is 3. So 2 and 99 hundredths is close to 3. So 2 and 99 hundredths would be a reasonable answer. So you can see that estimating can really help you figure out if something is correct or not. All right, what I'd like for you to do today for independent practice, ooh, you guys, the wind just blew so hard that I think it blew something outside. Okay, hold on, let me show you these pages. Okay, I would like for you to please do page 41 and, page 40 and 41 today, okay? Page 40 and 41 in your workbook, 5B workbook. All right, here's page 40. Whoops. Okay. Double check that you have those answers right at the end. And here's 41. Okay, so make sure you have those right. What I would like for you to do is, if you were a little bit confused on 14, don't worry about that too much, okay? I think you guys probably were fine, but just in case. And then tomorrow we're going to be looking at estimating with decimals, and we're going to be looking at word problems together, okay? So happy learning. Make sure you've got all those right, and then I will see you tomorrow for Thursday's math.